guitar people. Got something a little different this week. This is one of my bass guitars. I'm actually not a bass player. I don't play bass regularly. This was bought strictly for writing and recording music off on my own. Like if I had an idea and I didn't have my bass player handy because he was off doing something, I wanted to have an instrument that I could plug into, the computer and get a decent, scratch track down, so I could kind of convey to him what I had in mind if we were working on a piece. So I went out and what happened is the guitar store that I like to go to, which as I mentioned before is about an hour and a half west of here, they were running a sale. They typically run lots of sales, but it being 2007 and Gibson running their Guitar of the Week program, as I mentioned in my previous video, what happened is they have some models that didn't really sell all that well, but being a dealer they had to stock some of them. So what they ended up doing is towards the end of that year they had to get rid of some of that inventory, otherwise they're just going to be sitting on it forever. And this was one of those models. This was, I believe, the 7th Guitar of the Week. It is called a Les Paul Money Bass, although it really doesn't have very much to do with Les Paul at all. It's a very small-bodied bass guitar in they call it Midnight Manhattan Blue finish, which was the limited edition color for this run. And it's got 2 ceramic Thunderbird pickups. The electronics on this are a volume, and tone. There is no selector switch for the pickups, so if you want to mute one of the pickups, you just roll one of the volumes all the way off. This bass tends to overpower amplifiers. The pickups are pretty powerful, and I would suspect that's probably the case for most Thunderbird type bass guitars with these kind of pickups. They're ceramic humbuckers. They tend to be very powerful. The neck, I actually went up there, not to digress too much, but I actually went up there looking for a different model. They had a SG bass with a flame top on it that just looked gorgeous, and when I went down there to try it out, I plugged it into one of their bass rigs and started playing it, and what it was is it was a short scale. It didn't seem much bigger than a guitar, and I thought, oh, that's neat, that's kind of handy and portable, and once I plugged it in and started playing it, it really had no sustain, it had no tone to it, and I just was really underwhelmed. Although the price at the time was very cheap for a Gibson, it was still a good chunk of change. So being out there and taking a look around, I thought, well, let's see if they've got anything else out there. So I looked and I found this one, and they were trying to get rid of it for the same price. And what ended up happening is this one was going to go on sale the following week, but wasn't on sale yet. So I talked to my sales guy. I said, hey, can I have it for the sales, or can I try it out first? So I tried it out, and as soon as I plugged it in, I was just blown away by the difference in sound. This one had 2 humbuckers on it. The SG bass had like a humbucker and a mini humbucker or something like that, and it sounded really, really weak. Combined with the short scale, it didn't have any punch to the sound. It sounded pretty terrible. So I tried this one out, and I asked my sales guy if I could have it at the sale price for the following week, so I wouldn't have to make a trip out, back out in a week. And yeah, they didn't have a problem with that. So I came home with this one that day. It is, I believe, a 34-inch scale. I haven't measured it. It's whatever their standard bass scale length is. So it feels normal and comfortable to most bass players. I've let a couple of bass players use it, and they generally like it. The body's fairly lightweight. It doesn't weigh a ton, although it is not as well balanced as some of my other guitars, as you see the neck drop there. You do need to kind of hold it up a little bit. If you have a leather strap that has a little more grip on the underside, that will kind of help with that a little bit. But I just grabbed a strap that was convenient, threw strap locks on, and we were off to the races. I use this one a lot for, as I said, recording and writing and things like that, because this is actually, how many bass guitars does a guitar player need? Not very many. Later on, I did end up getting a second one because I got a really good deal on it, but this one is still pretty much a go-to because it's a lot more handy, I'll say. It doesn't weigh nearly as much as the other one does. It doesn't quite sound as good, but when you're running it electronically into a recording rig, you can kind of tweak the sound a little bit. I'm not dealing with nuances of tube distortion and things like that I don't want to lose. So as long as the basic notes there, and I think bass players have probably strangled me for saying something that obtuse, but the tone isn't quite as important to me on the bass track with the type of music that I'm using it for. I'm using the bass track more as reinforcement. But this is a 2007 Gibson Les Paul Money Bass, which is basically, as you may have noticed earlier, it's a double cutaway design with a small body, a pretty substantial bridge here. I forget what they call this model, but it's a solid chunk of metal that is just screwed right into the body, and it becomes a solid unit with the body. Nothing fancy as far as body or fretboard binding, but the frets are done fairly nice. The neck is, I'll call it about, medium or moderate as far as the neck contour. It's not too fat, it's not super skinny. It's got some substance to it. And the tuners on, I don't know what these tuners actually are. They say Grover on them, but they, I don't know if this will focus or not. I don't know much about the different varieties of tuners they use on basses. As I said, I'm not a bass player, but this was the next stop on my guitar journey, and I still use it to this day for writing and things like that, because these days I'm actually currently not in a band, so doubly hard to even get a hold of a bass player and have them come over and lay down a track, particularly for a piece of music that they're not familiar with. So this does give me some independence to keep doing what I'm doing, regardless of my band situation. So since I have the luxury of having the instrument, I keep it around, and I use it for my own purposes. It's a pretty decent instrument. It's I guess most bass players would look at this and say, wow, I can think of a million other basses that you probably could have gotten for a better price, that would work better for what you're using it for. And that's probably true. I will be the first to admit that. I was going through, and still kind of believe this, a phase where I was trying to buy things that were made domestically. So it was a big selling point to me that I could get my hands on a USA-made instrument for my purposes here, and quite honestly, the standard Fender P bass, I had played a friend of mine's, and the tone was great, but the output was so weak, it just left me feeling very, very underwhelmed. So all I really knew is I wanted something made in the US, and I didn't want it to be a Fender P bass. So that was kind of the decision-making process for me at that time, and just because I never get tired of seeing a nice deep shade of blue like this. It is a flame maple top, although the flame on this is not particularly great. I've seen other examples that popped a lot more. This one looks, you really have to hold it in certain lights to even be able to tell that there is figured wood on the top. But that's about it for this episode. It's about one of my basses, so I don't really have a ton to say about it.